Welcome to Moments with Marianne and Happy New Year. It's such a joy to spend this time with you. My goodness, we have a very special New Year's Day show coming right up. And our special guest is none other than Byron Katie. So Byron Katie is the founder of The Work, which has one job, and it's to teach people how to end their own suffering. She guides people through this powerful process of inquiry that she calls the work, and they find their stressful beliefs about life, other people, or themselves, which allows radical shifts to take place and change their lives forever. So 10 years after her latest book, beloved spiritual teacher Byron Katie's here today to share with us the profound new perspective on the work with an astonishing yet simple, life-changing process of freeing yourself from the thoughts that cause human suffering. This revolutionary method has transformed lives of millions of people all over the world. So let's welcome to the show Byron Katie.
Oh, thank you, Marianne. So good to finally, the two of us can finally get together here.
Oh, anytime we can get together is a perfect time, so I'm fine with that.
Okay, well.
And especially to celebrate your new book, my goodness.
Yes, A Mind at Home with Itself. It was really an extraordinary experience for me too. Sitting with Stephen, my husband, Stephen Mitchell, and he had actually translated this wonderful Buddhist text, and he started reading chapters to me and wanting my response, and then writing down my experience of what I was hearing, and of his translation of this Diamond Sutra. And it was, I loved it. And the way I related to it, it was like coming home. And a mind at home in itself is an expression that I have used out of the state of gratitude that I so appreciate. And, like a gift. But when the mind is home with itself, there's no war. So as he was reading these chapters of the sutra to me and waiting for my response as he took notes and wrote down, word for word, it was quite a gift to me. I can say that.
Oh, I don't doubt that. And what a delight to be able to have the two of you work together on such a profound piece of work, bringing in the Diamond Sutra and then also gaining your wisdom and insights on this. I mean, it's just this book is like a lighthouse, in a dark room for the mind.
I get to hear that from so many people. I had no idea it would be so meaningful to people, and I know it was to me. But this Diamond Sutra, Mind at Home with Itself, it is the story of the Buddha with one of his disciples. And his, I think they call them disciples, but one of his students. And then as Stephen continued to read this to me, I clearly got that, just like all of us, it's like Subhuti, his student, was really the Buddha's mind. So the Buddha, this sutra is really just the Buddha questioning himself and bringing this mind forward and then questioning it, responding out of that. So it really is a mind at home with itself. It's this perfect synchronicity where no matter what happens, no matter what Subhuti says, the student says, or asks the Buddha responds out of this wisdom and kindness. And I just, of course, I felt a home in that. It's because it's the end of war. The end of war in our world is when the mind no longer does war with itself. And that is a perfectly questioned mind open to everything. And so, no surprises there within us once we welcome what is within us and understand it. But, if we don't welcome it, how can we understand it? We have to take time out to understand our own thinking and make friends with it. And so this text is really, I think, a gift to all of us. Again, it certainly is to me.
Well, and I love how your book is interwoven with it. And there were many times when I was reading this, I had to stop and just reread what I just read, going, okay, now wait a minute. I mean, it was that profound. I had to take a moment, and it's not often, and I can kind of equate this to like when I was learning how to read Shakespeare. It's some of my favorite pieces to read, where every sentence had such deep, profound meaning within it.
Yes.
It took time to really unravel the whole thing. And your book, in a little bit of obviously in a different way, offers the same type of just the profound nature of it. Where we have to really sit and think about it.
Yes, because it can hit you in so many ways. One of my sons, he rides his bicycle. That's his sport, and he rides on these mountain trails, and they're hard rides and long rides. And he takes this book on tape with him, and he comes back changed every trip. It's just he hears it differently every time. It just is blowing his mind, and so that's a beautiful thing for me to witness as well, watching one of my own children's mind unravel.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure.
Oh,
I mean,
my goodness.
Yeah, it was such a journey. And I'm probably one of the many long list of interviewers that has a book that's just has tags all out the side, and I haven't done this in years because usually I make my notes, and we have such a great organic conversation. And with this, there was so much. I mean, when you talk about in your book, you say life is a dream, and what motivates you to be kind to people, if they're just characters in your dream, it makes you kind of just sit and think, wow, okay, so there's such a profound truth to that.
What you say, Marianne, is so important what you're pointing to, because we put on our best faces to our friends and the people around us, and why aren't we like that with the characters that we see as self in our own mind, as we see the people in our own minds, the way we think of them. And the way we see them, why aren't we as kind to those? You understand from reading the book what I mean. Like if I have if we look at a friend of ours that hurt our feelings, well, that was then. But as we think of them in our minds, are we meeting them with a kind of open mind and understanding and really listening to ourselves and our self-talk and how we are attacking that image, because that is no longer the person. It's an image in our head of past, future, and there's nothing real about it. So who are we attacking? Just our own mind, which just feeds the ego, which is another way of saying that inside is really going outside of the inside. So it's the self with the self is really all those images in my head of I had breakfast this morning. I see that in my mind's eye, and well, that's not me. That's not self. That's an image. And I see me of the future this evening at dinner. Well, that's not self. That's not real. That's dreaming. It's dreaming. And so all of our responses and fears and hopes and all these emotions we feel come out of what we're believing onto those images of not self. So we're really wasting our time until we understand that to go back where I started, until I love those images in my head, I can't love the world. Mm-hmm. And as long as I'm believing what I believe onto those images, I'm going to believe it onto the world. So the place to start is it doesn't matter if we start inside or out. My job here in the world is to bring inquiry to people, because I know the power of questioning my own mind, and I'm watching how this is moving in the world and transmitting one to the other, and it's so powerful to identify what we're believing and to question it out of these 4 questions that are, as I always say, Marianne, are free on thework.com. No need to sign up for anything. They're just absolutely free on the homepage, and anyone with an open mind can do it. And so I'm, of course, invite everyone to that. But, that gets back to the Buddha with Subhuti. That's what was going on, the self, understanding the self.
And really getting to the root of suffering and what causes suffering. It's interesting when we look at it and we look at past experiences that is the illusion, and how we are bringing that into our present moment with the pains, the sufferings, the fears, all that. It's like we're reliving that play over and over again, but we're the only character.
Yes, we suffer as an effect of believing what we're believing onto false images and people. And if I don't care about you, I don't care about me, because it goes against our nature not to care. That is, the cause of suffering. And so to question what I'm believing about the people in my life leaves me at peace with those people in my head. So we have the end of suffering when we have questioned anything that goes against our heart. Identify it and write it down and sit with it like it's the beloved, because it is. It's coming right out of us. And until we understand it, there's really not a lot of peace.
Well, and what I learned from your book is when we sit and we question, our mind does these questioning in regards to these, situations that are happening or whatever is the cause of our suffering, that's really the answer to what's going on. It's the answer to us being able to forgive it and let it go.
Yes, so true. And it really is that simple. I mean, who would think it could be so simple? Mm-hmm. It's like everything unravels and we're just left in this state of forgiveness. And in the state of forgiveness, it's everything we say and do is helpful as opposed to the opposite. And we like ourselves when we are in that state of forgiveness. I see forgiveness as what I thought happened didn't happen, and that is the complete state of forgiveness. Let's say, for example, I'm a little child and I'm sitting at the table and I'm drawing with my pencil or Crayolas, and my mother walks in and says, "Byron, Kathleen," and I'm traumatized. Mm-hmm. I'm just traumatized. And why am I traumatized? I've done something wrong. She doesn't care about me. She thinks I'm stupid. All of these things run through my head, and I'm believing them when all she said was, "What are you doing?" The entire trauma was what I believed onto that moment. Now, when we go back, and let's say as adults, and I look at that, I'm sitting at the table. That's where the trauma happened, and it can be, just anything from mild irritation, these forgiveness that we're working on, to something traumatic. Even the trivial things are huge to us. But I go back and I see me sitting at the table. I'm drawing. She walks in and she says, "Byron, Kathleen, what are you doing?" And I even had a story about the tone of her voice. But that was mine. I attached to this. So everything that I was thinking and believing, right down to what she meant and the tone of her voice, is what traumatized me. Whereas if I just look at it now, grown up, I look at it, and we can do it at any age, but I look at it and she said, what are you doing? And I've got the answer. And Marianne, it's mind-blowing to have such a simple answer. I am drawing at the table. And that's the answer. And my mind was so guilt-filled that I couldn't see the answer, and it was, to this very simple question. Mm-hmm. So is my mother innocent? 100% when I look at the cause of my suffering. What I believed about her, et cetera, was the cause of my trauma. And Marianne, in 30 years now since this work just showed itself to me so clearly on that floor one day, I just am so clear that there is no exception to that story I just told. I mean, someone says, you did it wrong, and they come at you in that voice. Well, what we're believing about the voice and what we're believing about that person, that is the cause of our fear, of our suffering, of our guilt, of everything. So we can just sit down and get still, meditate on those moments in our lives as they come to us. Or maybe they just happened and we want to get it squared away because we're suffering over it. We're feeling guilty over it. We can just sit down and just get really clear about, like, what are you doing? I'm sitting. I'm quiet at the time. And then I begin to identify everything I was thinking and believing as I write it down. And then I can question it. I can ask with each assumption, is it true? And then meditate on that question. Is it absolutely true that, let's say I was believing that person betrayed me, or that person doesn't like me, or that person's angry at me. If we use that when that person she's angry at me, is it true? And then meditate on that. Can I absolutely know that it's true that she's angry with me? And then to notice how I reacted the moment I believed the thought, and then to allow that time and place, that moment in time, to show me and to get in touch with those emotions, and to just allow them to envelop me, to take me over, to kill me if need be, but to just allow what was there to show itself to me. How do I react when I believe that thought? And then to look at the images of past and future that were going on in my head in that seemingly terrible moment. And then just to get still and just witness that moment in time again, who I would be without the thought, she's angry with me, or whatever or she betrayed me, whatever I had written down, the assumption, and to stick with that. And then to just, if it was she betrayed me, I would turn it around, I betrayed me. And then meditate on that. Where, in that moment in time, in that situation, where was it that I betrayed me? What is it that I wasn't true to? And then I might find another way, another opposite. She didn't betray me. And then to just sit in that and to see what, when we sit in these 4 questions and these turnarounds, they're all we need to do is get still, ask the question, get really still, meditate on the question, and we're shown through images. Because, we're really good at being in the past and future. So when we look back at the past and we really get still in it, we're shown. So we can see the difference between what was imagined and reality. And we're always at peace when we're in reality. Not reality as we imagine it to be, but reality. It's always safe. It's a place where we understand, where we're helpful, we're in service. And for some of us, a place where, we're not hurting ourselves or other people. And for me, I'll settle for that. And any wisdom that comes forward, for others, is just icing on the cake, because it's at that point, it's selfless. We can't even claim it as ourselves. Wisdom is something, it's a gift that when we clear the clouds away, meaning all those assumptions and judgments, and we get squared away with that, we can see clearly this beautiful universe and world and life in the moment, and it's real. And all of the fog is gone, meaning the assumptions and judgments that we innocently believed, they hide the real world from us. Mm-hmm. So it's any of your listeners out there, if you're suffering, I so invite you to this book, A Mind at Home with Itself, and to thework.com, where you may not be able to understand me. It's just very clear. If I have anything that's valuable at all, it's free on thework.com.
Yeah, you have a lot of great resources there. I've used them myself, and I've enjoyed.
Oh, I'm so glad you did that.
Oh, yeah. All the great interviews and just the tools that you have there that people can utilize. And of course, your new book, A Mind at Home with Itself. And to kind of piggyback on the discussion the topic you were just going over there, it's really interesting when we move the stories away that we have that surround our past, because it seems that most everyone I know has a real deep pain from the past. Like it's either really, someone invalidated them, maybe it's child abuse, whatever the case is, it's something. And it's a real deep pain. And when they really examine that, we realize the people that we had these situations with, they're in deep pain too.
Yes. And when we see, who would I be without that judgment or assumption? Who would I be without the thought? We're able to see that person as they really are, as opposed to what we were believing they are, and the compassion that floods us, and the gratitude that floods us, that life in that moment isn't what we believed it to be. In fact, extreme opposite. Life is kind. The world is kind, but what we're believing about the world, that could use a little work.
Well, and for a lot of people, it takes them a while to even get to believing the world is kind.
Oh my gosh! I think it has to be something that we're left to realize, and that happens as we continue to live on a questioned life.
Yeah.
To believe any assumption that would arise in me, and they're going to arise, but do I believe it? If I believe it, those emotions are going to show me, that it's something I need to question. But they can arise, and they're completely neutral as they arise, no matter how horrific they used to be. They're neutral because I see clearly they're not true, and it's not something I'm thinking consciously. They're just like clouds in the sky. They just kind of move, and the things that used to bring just a lot of guilt and stress and problems to my life, some of them are even laughable because I'm the only one they're arising to. And the ones that used to hurt are, they don't, because I found peace. It is what forgiveness looks like. It's when your mind, no matter what arises, you understand. The mind ceases to be an enemy.
Yeah, and it really becomes really your friend in showing you the things that need to be, viewed and reassessed.
Yes. And if there's a ripple, occasionally it's like, oh, good, there's one. There's one. That's something to work. And it just becomes automatic. That's one to question. When I say to work, for some of you that don't understand, I call this inquiry the work. And so to work a thought, what I mean by that is to identify it and question it. Identify and question these assumptions and judgments that run through our mind. They're going to run through, and we don't have a choice. We believe them or we question them. There just is no other choice in life.
Yeah. It really...
And we go to bed with them. We wake up with them. We spend the day with them. and some of them are, oh, my gosh, I was so agoraphobic. I was agoraphobic for years, and just locked in a cell in my bedroom with, in a cell, meaning I was locked into this head, into this mind, and it was so fearful that it was terrifying to leave my bedroom, my house, and I just, and the answer was so simple that I just love that people know there's a way. Those of you listening, that if you don't love your life or appreciate your life, or there's suffering in your life, then there is a way. And I learned this from experience, and I don't call it the work for nothing. It's not easy to every time we question what we're believing, our identity shifts. It goes from who we believed ourselves to be to a kinder human being each time, a kinder, more understanding human being, more compassionate human being each time. Because, when we're suffering, I can say when I was suffering, I was not the kindest person in the world. Mm-hmm. I wasn't kind to me. I would say and do things toward my family that I was just racked with guilt, and I would think, how could I have said that? How could I have done that? And it was a trap I lived in with no way out. That's what I believed. And then in that moment on the floor, as I lay sleeping on the floor, I just saw that so clearly, and it's not that I just saw it, I experienced it, that when I believed my thoughts, I suffered. And when I didn't believe them, I didn't suffer. And I've come to see this is true for every human being.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I love how in your book, you just say it very, very, it's like a paragraph at one of the end of the chapters, and it says, the only important thing to know is this: if a thought hurts, question it. And that has stayed with me because it's such a simple truth. It's like, gosh, that is so true. So when we feel that pain, to be able to sit with it and try to discover what that's all about. Yeah, yes.
And that Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, it's a way of identifying and then capturing, identifying and writing down the thoughts in our head. Mm-hmm. And it's a wonderful guide, and that's free on thework.com too. And you can just print it out and do it. And there's an app out there. I think it's $1.99. And whatever way I can get the work to people that were, suffering when there's another way to live. But you just, identify the thoughts and write them down. And that Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, it's a wonderful guide. It's to identify the thoughts in your head in those moments when you're feeling guilt or fear or anger less than beautiful, or anything less than balanced.
And that's such a perfect place to be in that we really strive for. We don't really want to live in a world of illusion.
No, because we can't. It's an illusion. So that's why we see it. That's what's meant by the dream world. Not living in reality. We're living in the world in our head, and that's not the real world. It's the real world as we believe it to be. So if we believe the world to be that way, it's what we see in the world, because we believe onto the world. That's what we experience.
Yeah, it's just that projection that we are, what we're projecting onto other people, that story that we make up based on our programming.
Yes. Yeah. That also on the work.com we have a free helpline, and if people download a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet and just follow the simple directions, it's all there, and just fill it in, then they can call the helpline, and they don't ask what your name is or where you're from or anything. We just support you. It's like riding a bicycle. We support you until you really have a flavor of how you can sit with yourself. No teacher, no one else. Just sit with yourself and understand how to question. Just alone with yourself, question what you believe in any situation or moment in time that caused you to say the things you said or do the things you do or feel the way you're feeling.
Well, and what I appreciate about that, I have friends all over the world, and I know that they can download that in their language, which is having that worksheet in their language is a lot of times it's helpful, to be able to do that.
It is, and we do. We have, I think, 32 different languages up there on that worksheet, and we have flags up there where people can click that flag. If you know, and your family doesn't speak English, you can just see if that flag's up there, and just click it, and there is what we can give you on the website in your language. And you know what I love, Marianne? The Internet is giving us, it translates into other languages now. And
thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah, I happen to use that quite often, actually.
Yeah. The world is we're not separated by language the way we used to be. It's just not necessary.
Well, and what's interesting, they come up with so many new, there's technology is just really booming, and you hear about I think they have a new device that will translate immediately into your language so that you can hear what people are saying. And so with all these separations being dissolved in one way or another, it's so nice to also work on that within our minds.
Absolutely. We're really privileged, with this Internet the way that it is. I hear so many complaints about the Internet, and life is a little of this, a little of that. But it's a wonderful thing to understand that the worst that can happen in our lives is what we're thinking and believing, and that there is a way to be free of that.
In your book, Byron Katie, I know you talk about, how giving is receiving. And, for our listeners that are probably trying to understand a little bit more about what that all is, can you touch on that a little bit?
Well, it would be if I give you something, in that moment, that's what I get. So if I expect something in return from you, then I don't get it. I missed it. the moment I give it, I receive that giving, my own generosity. And so the experience isn't split in two, it's one motion. And it expects nothing in return. It's not even a thought, because the joy is in the giving. But so many of us in the human race, we give something and we'll wait for a thank you or a smile even is too much, because that's not it. To give and expect nothing. And I have an exercise at the 9-day school for the work, an exercise that I introduce to people, and the assignment is every day to do 3 kind things for someone and not be discovered. And if anyone finds out or discovers this kind act, you have to start over. And it is the most wonderful play to watch one's ego and what it does. You know, you might send someone flowers and think, oh, I hope that, you know, with a little love note or something, and oh, I hope the florist tells them, or maybe they'll ask, well, what credit card was it put on, or, you know, so who sent it, and to watch the egos play like that, or just do something kind and like. I know people, several actually, that when they're in a toll road, they always pay for the car behind them. Mm-hmm. And so it's a surprise to the car behind them. And by then the license plate, you know, your license plate is out of sight. But it becomes eventually a way of living where you're thoughtlessly just a kind person. You're just living as a kind person, not a kind person waiting for a payback. So I love this opportunity for all of us listening to this to appreciate in the giving our own true nature and generosity. It will just fill you with joy. It is the most amazing thing. But we're taught to, as children, to say, you know, when someone gives you something, say thank you. And that's a beautiful custom and tradition. And so it's no way to live, but we can, within this exercise, we can say thank you, understanding that that's not it. That's not what it's about, that it is just a custom, a tradition. But it's not. And then when someone gives me something, to receive that and give nothing back. In other words, to experience it. And then, as tradition would have it, you know, the thank you, etc., but it's aside from, it has nothing to do with receiving. So in that receiving, like if you give me something, Marianne, mm-hmm. and I receive it, then that is what I give back. But it's so powerful that it's not really something that can be told, but it is an exercise for people to start playing with. But just to imagine someone giving you something and just receiving it and just feeling that selfless giving coming at you and not having to give anything in return but just to be with it. It's quite an experience, and eventually in that practice, it becomes a way of life. We can say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, but we don't miss the receiving or the giving. So it goes both ways, to give or to receive. Just, you know, they're not separate.
Well, and I love how in your book you have written, every time I give something away, what comes back is freedom. And gosh, isn't that true?
Oh, it is, and I think I tell the story in the book of when my house was robbed, and we had gone away for the weekend or the week or something, but we came home, and I had a large tri-level home, and we opened the door, and everything was gone, furniture, everything. They had brought big moving van into the back of our house, as it turned out, and just emptied it.
Oh, my goodness.
And I just felt relieved. It was just because I couldn't think, I'm receiving that gift, and there's nothing that isn't a gift. So it was, this just flooded with this gratitude. You don't have to dust it. You don't have to insure it. You don't have to. And then my mind was flooded with they could take my jewelry and give it to their wives or daughters or sell it, and and how far that gift would the life of everything in my house. And if I would reach for something, it was gone, and I would immediately see people appreciating it or trading it or buying. I could even see them buying alcohol that they really, really needed. It got really strange, because they were going into some terrible physical pain. But it was the things that came to my head that brought such joy. Now, my husband, on the other hand, was saying things like my things. And to me, that was bizarre because they were not his things. They now belong to other people. So he's saying my this and my gun collection and my coin collection and my this, my that, my favorite this, and all the neighbors agreeing, and then the police came and they all agreed that they were his things, and it doesn't mean we don't file a police report. It doesn't mean we don't follow through. It's just that there was no malice in my world. There was no loss in my world. And that is the giving, and that's what I received. And it was, I wish that I had, I hope my words are clearer in the book for the joy, the gratitude I actually felt. It doesn't mean I don't lock my doors. It doesn't mean I have a very well-lived life. There's just no worry in it. Life happens. It happens. And how are we going to receive it? Out of a state of gratitude that's real and not phony? Or out of loss and anger and fear? It's, this questioning one's mind leaves us sane and clear. And we're able to deal with life, whereas my husband couldn't find the phone number for the police. I have no problem. Because there's no loss in me. There's only gain and clarity, and it's just loving what is, because when we don't, we're not happy in our world. And to be happy is not to be a fool. To be happy is, to my mind, where I'm the happiest is when I'm balanced and I'm enjoying life as I understand it to be, and which is what we're all doing. We love or hate life as we understand it to be, as we believe it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really brings you to a different level of questioning, because you get to choose what you would like your experience to be.
Yes. Yeah. It's your emotions will show you when there is something, when you've when your mind has stumbled into territory that isn't helpful, and you can identify what you were thinking and believing that was not helpful, and emotions will let you know. And then you can write it down and sit in these 4 questions. I think it was Socrates that said, an unquestioned life is not worth living. Mm-hmm. And I have found this to be absolutely the case.
Well, without a doubt. And even to the point, and here we go with another one of your quotes. I think I have time for one more here, is when we talk about just, the questioning of our minds, and this one question really stuck with me. Are you enlightened to your own stressful thinking right now? That's the only enlightenment that matters. And it's interesting when we put it in that context, to be enlightened to our own stressful thinking just has you pause and go, where is this happening in my life? I need to really evaluate this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it also doesn't give us our whole life that we have to do this. It's just in those moments when we're stressed, mm-hmm. or guilty, feeling those guilty. It's victims are violent people, and when we're violent, then we're piling guilt on guilt. So to just know that there is a way, no matter how terrible we're feeling, that in the moment we can identify what we're thinking and believing and question it. And it'll shift all the days of our life.
It really provides, it brings us back to that freedom part. It really provides us freedom when we're willing to just look at these things for what they are and kind of wash away those stories with those 4 questions.
Yes. They dissipate because what's true can't live. What's not true can't live. It's false. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it leaves us in reality, and reality is always kinder than what we're believing about it. Always.
Yeah, and it's interesting when we do the work and we pick up your book, and obviously we do our little worksheet as well, Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, and work through all that. We really get to see all the places where we do have judgments and stories and illusion, and how we can kind of break that down and start chipping away at those.
Yes, yeah. It's all it takes is an open mind. So anyone with an open mind can do this, but it really does take an open mind. And to me, an open mind is a state of grace, because our minds aren't always open. When we're believing something, no one can change our mind. When someone's believing what they're thinking and they're angry and you try to change their mind, it is hopeless. They just dig in. So it just leaves us to be open enough to question what we ourselves are believing and leave the world alone. And the clearer we get, the kinder we get, and the kinder and freer the people in our lives become. Because there's one less victim in the world. There's one less person judging. And our families really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sure. And our inner self appreciates it as well.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Oh, when this work found me, my children just kept waiting for the wicked witch to come back, and it took them a while to trust that this authentic mother. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh! And I was trying with all my might, and then I just began questioning my thoughts, and I got what I always wanted: a kinder way of life, a more understanding way of life, and solutions that were at my fingertips, because all that smog was gone. In other words, all the assumptions and judgments in my head about it were were gone. So of course you live out of a life of a wiser life, more trustworthy life.
And it's so freeing to be able to live in that space. And I could, and it's interesting. We might be there sometimes, but the goal is to try to get there all the time, And
in that quote from the book you said earlier, just now, just now, we can just, when we're upset, we can just settle for just now. It's like speaking loosely, I don't care about the past or the future. Just give me some freedom now, and just free enough to breathe just now. And when things are really piling up for people, we can have it now. We don't have to wait for people to change, or our incomes to change, or our health to change, or other people in our world to change. It's within us. What we're believing about people in the world is the cause of our suffering. So it really is up to each of us individual to give us what we came for, to this thing I call Earth School.
Well, thank goodness we have teachers like you to help us on our path, because I really feel that you're one of the great luminaries of our time to help people, get beyond the things that keep us kind of, and stuck is not really the right word, but just kind of keep us where we're not really meant to be.
Yeah, when we're uncomfortable or angry or stressed out in any way, that's when we're not okay with ourselves. We feel that. It's not what we want, and there is another way. There is another way, and it really truly is, like all the great teachers have said, it really is inside of us. It's what we're thinking and believing, and that can be questioned rather than anesthetized away with chocolate cake.
You know what? I would agree with you.
Oh, there's got to be another way. Yay, there is.
Well, Byron, Katie, and I know we've given out your websites, thework.com, and people can visit that, and there's tons of resources there, and they can learn about all the great things that you're doing. And, of course, your book, A Mind at Home with Itself. Thank you so much, just for taking the time to be with us and to share your wisdom and insight with us. We so greatly appreciate it.
Oh, it is such a pleasure, and I'm so grateful, Marianne. Thank you for all the good you pass on to the world. I'm so grateful.
Oh, thank you, Byron, Katie. I could not imagine a better way to ring in the new year. So thank you for sharing not only your book, A Mind at Home with Itself, but your wisdom and insights in regards to the work and all the great works that you're doing. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in and spending your New Year's Day with us. I hope this new year brings you much prosperity, health, and happiness. Well, you've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.